right, so we're back for the last part of the backend, which is Backend Data Api. So we're going to build a Flask app that you can host locally, but you can also host online somewhere. You can then call that endpoint and you'll be able to access all the data and all the actions that are being provided to you from that backend API. And that's actually what the front end is going to use. So this part's really cool. I actually think APIs are really easy, surprisingly easy to build, and gives you so much power. And a lot of people don't understand just how good it is and how much you can automate and make lives easier. So let's start cracking on that. So there are a couple of things we need here. This is more for simplicity as opposed to for anything substantial from a coding perspective. So we've got all cards and prints. So this is just a list of all the cards and all the prints without all the other heavy data components. And then we also have a SKU positions, which tells us where a particular SKU is in a set of lists. Just give me a second. I'll be right back. I'm just going to mute myself for a sec. Okay, feel free to chat about something for the next couple of minutes, next minute or so.
Okay. Yeah, so hopefully you guys learn something from this sessions. Yeah, so it's mainly Python, and I guess if you have a strong kind of Python background, then this will be kind of easy to follow. But if you don't, then there's tons of online materials that you can just use. You can even watch YouTube videos. Python is pretty easy to learn. Yeah, but if you have any questions about Python's specific issues, then yeah, just feel free to shoot your kind of questions, and we can kind of work through the solution together. So yeah, and then later I'll kind of show you the front end and how I used Flutter, which is kind of Dart language, not in Python, is in Dart, but pretty similar to C. If you learn C, then would be pretty easy to follow along. But if you don't have that background, it's kind of easy to learn as well. So yeah, syntax pretty easy, and yeah, so I'll show you how I built that front end. Mainly to show you the kind of first page, the home page, where the top app bar and then the bottom banner and the bottom content, the body. Yeah, so you can use Flutter to build, let's say, any apps you like. If you have any kind of app ideas you want to build, you can use Flutter. So yeah, it's just one Dart language, and then you can kind of push that to web, and then use that to build iOS app, and then you can even use that to build Android app as well. So yeah, just one language, and then you can use that to build all three, push to all three platforms. So I would say it's pretty easy to learn and very valuable as well. And I think I'm not too sure, but many kind of big companies using Flutter as well to kind of build their own websites or apps. So that's pretty, I guess, stables right now. But a few years back, not much people use Flutter to build, so that was kind of hard to learn. And right now the community is kind of getting bigger. So yeah, a lot of packages you can use. You don't have to build your own kind of things from scratch. So you can use the ready package, and then yeah, just build your apps and then push it to Google's, or yeah, host it somewhere, and yeah, you can share your app with your friends. So I won't show you how to host it up, but I'll kind of show you how you can build a simple app. Yeah, mainly the FabFox.games kind of front page, and yeah, hopefully you can kind of take that away and build your own cool apps, and yeah, share it with us if you do that. So
Cool.
show
Thanks,
you
Kion.
back. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, we had a question in chat from FWB333. Hey, what app are you building now? So we are just building we wanted to show just how easy it is to build an end-to-end full stack app, and the one that we chose was Flesh and Blood price aggregator. It's fairly simple. It allows us to test a whole bunch of stuff. So you have like search functionality here. So if we type inline strike, you can see Enlight comes up, and you can find not just inline strike but seek alignment. We have, these are blue, and Enlight and strike is a red card, so that's why it's red here. You can see the different foiling between red and unlimited, first edition and unlimited as well. And then you have blue cards, so like Absorb the Ether has blue, red, and yellow cards. So you have functionality to pull all of that stuff. It also shows you that we have how to scrape website prices and how to get details from APIs, prices from APIs. And based on that, you can just aggregate all of that stuff into a backend API, which is what I'm going to finish off now. And then we'll have like a way to surface that through a website. And we like Flutter quite a lot, because not only can this sit here on a web browser, it can also be used as an app as well. So iOS and Android apps very quickly. Cool. So I will keep going with the backend. So this is going to be a Flask app that we'll show you how to do. Like I said, I normally don't condone this, but in this situation, we're going to do it anyway. We're just going to load the metadata file directly here. So every time you run or import this script, all of this stuff will run. The file, we're going to load metadata into data final. And then we have a bunch of like just code that will just clean up the data and give you some properties when you return a response. But the beefy stuff starts now. So I guess maybe I'll start from the bottom. So probably one of the first things you want to do is probably get a list of all cards and all prints. So with this one, it's fairly straightforward. We're going to open this JSON file, read only, and we're going to call it all cards. And then we're just going to load that. And then we're going to return the JSONified data with a success. Now this is actually an endpoint that we want people to access. Hey Metalloid, all good. And so what we do here is we actually turn it into a route or route. I don't know which country you're from and how you pronounce it. So we have to use both. So get all cards and prints. And the method you have here is a get. So all of this stuff is actually, it might seem difficult or strange, but it's actually fairly straightforward. You can go, like Kian said, you can go online, find tons of tutorials on it. Just go, how do I build a Flask app in Python? And there are tons of really good tutorials. I think Real Python or Learn Python tutorials or something like that. They do some really good courses, all free. The second one we want is get card details by SKU. So this is quite a lengthy one. Again, this is a get. And just to let you know that this is the actual URL endpoint that you're going to be hitting. So you can choose to make this very abstract like that, and you can go whatever your main URL is, / and this is your URI. Type in your URI and then that will get you to this function, which is awesome. I generally like to have a little bit more detail in here just so I know exactly what it's trying to do. But to each their own. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try get the details from here. So we want to get the SKU. And so what this means is at the back of this URL, I don't know if sometimes you notice, let's say if it's like https let's go google.com, and imagine that they had this. Then at the back of here, they're going to have a question mark, and then they're going to go SKU equals, and it's going to be like, let's take the one we're using, WTR159-RF. So this is the SKU that they're using, and the name of the argument is here, and then the property, the value of the argument, is at the back. So this little question mark section here tells us that SKU is equal to UWTR159RF. So that's kind of how that works. And then we're just going to do some stuff that help us from a speed perspective. So we're going to open this. Naming convention is really up to you. I know a lot of people like you have to name it a certain way, but different people come from different coding languages and you have different preferences. I don't necessarily think you always have to be Pythonic, quote unquote. So some people like to go D for dictionary. So this is a dictionary and kind of list the name behind it. Some people like to go the name of the thing and then the type it is after. So like position underscore D or dictionary. It's up to you how you want to do your coding. So the first thing we're going to just do is make sure that the SKU actually exists in our data. If it doesn't, then we have to return an error. And now we're just going to get the position of the SKU. And then in the data final card that we have, we're going to start pulling out all of these details. So I probably won't pull out all of it. Actually, I will, but I'll just copy paste the details from somewhere else because there are a lot that we are trying to get. So another one we want is printings. We want prices. So we want to get the prices. We don't have a function for that yet, but we'll get to that. We want to know who sold those cards. So, and we'll get to that one as well. And then we'll return a huge list of details. So I'm just going to copy paste that. Actually, I'll type up a couple. I'll type up the first couple. So we want to know exactly what the card name is. So Enlightened Strike, for example. We want to know all the different versions of the card. This is another function that we'll write. We want the print ID, which we'll get from the SKU print. And then a whole bunch of other properties after that. So I'm just going to copy paste this one. And then at the end, 200. So let's go off and start writing some of these functions here. The first one we want to write is get prices. So all this is doing is all that stuff that we did from the back end. Medloid, yeah, it will be on YouTube. I don't know where I'm going to share the link, but I think I have my YouTube link somewhere and I'll share it on YouTube. I might just copy paste the link here in a little bit as well. So all that stuff that we did earlier around getting prices, imagine you save that somewhere, wherever you wanted. And all we're going to do is retrieve that for a particular date now. So when I say particular date, I personally like to set a default value. So when you're returning something, it automatically returns a like today, for example, or day 0 or day 1, and you can define what that looks like. And if that's not provided, if a different date is provided, you can still get that data, but for the specified date. So I like doing that. So if date string is none, so if it's today and they haven't provided something, then we're just going to go prices equal. For us, remember, we're getting everything from data storage, so we're just going to read skew. We saved it in a particular format, so we just want to get that's supposed to be prices. So yesterday string equals datetime.now. Time zone just specifies the time zone, just because if you look at it on your PC, it's going to be different to us because we're in a different time zone. So our days could be different to your days, and we may not have run the code yet. So we just want to make sure that everything's in sync and it's working. So if we don't find something, then we're just going to return a blank dictionary. Technically, we should probably return none, but whatever. We're not going to worry about that. Not for this, at least. So otherwise, we're going to return the response. And otherwise, we're going to return prices. Now, if date string was not none, so someone's provided a different date, then we will go and actually pass through that date to the read function. And then same thing. I can't type response. So we're just going to do that. So this will pass back all of the data for all the prices that we collected on a particular date. The next one is we want sellers. So we just want to format all the data that we have in our prices function. So from here for a particular SKU. So the first one we want prices, and we want printing. So one thing that we do have here is a list of all the different TCG name types that we want. So we want low, mid, high, and market, like we talked about previously. And I know this is not Pythonic, but this is probably easier for newbies to understand. And I personally find it a lot clearer because you can kind of see we're going to go and iterate through all of the cards in here in prices. And what we want to do is match it against the print, see whether or not we have it. And we're just going to go and append. So we're going to, once we found it, we're just going to add it to the list. So name is the seller. So who was this person selling it in that prices thing? So for example, right now we only have TCG player and a whole host of them. And then the other one we have is Fab Armory. But if you were to build this out completely, you'd have a whole heap of cool things. Like you might have 100 different sellers. And that way, I mean, if you think about the arbitrage thing we were talking about earlier, you could probably find way better arbitrage opportunities if you did it that way. But think about this not from just a Fab Armory of FAB card trading game perspective, but think about this from anything that you are kind of interested in, whether it be like basketball cards or NFTs or whatever. You can kind of apply this to anything. The next thing is inventory. So we're just going to check if inventory is not 0, then we're going to return true. Otherwise, we're going to return false. So it's just a little key that we'll use in the front end. The next one is currency. So it's literally just grabbing the currency, which we stored. Next one, most important thing, is we just want to grab the price and then the URL. So the URL is where we use this list. So I'm just gonna I'll type it out actually. So this is a little bit Pythonic, and same with this one. This is probably not syntax that you would have seen if you've done C or Java or anything like else. The way you kind of read this is you go, if this is true, if the inventory is equal to 0, then actually this should be false. So I think this should be not 0. So if the inventory is not equal to 0, then true, else false. And that's how you read it. So if you were to write this out properly, I'm just going to do out here. It'll be like if price seller inventory not equal 0, then return true, return false, something like that. That's what that statement reads. That's how you read it. So we're going to do the same thing here. So we want to return the URL for the seller, so that once it's on a web page and you want to click it, you can just easily click it. So you've got that. So if the seller is not in TCG player list, then do it straight away. Otherwise, if it is in TCG player list, which is this one, because we know that TCG player low, mid, high, and market will all have the same URL, we will just go printing price URLs TCG player, like that, because that's the actual code for TCG player, not these ones. And then we're just going to return L. So that's that. That now formats all the prices nicely, and you can kind of see what we're trying to get at. The front end will now be able to have a list of all of the different sellers, the inventory, the currency, the price, and a link to their website. So if we have a look at this and we click Enlightened Strike, you can see here it will show the name of the seller, the price, inventory I guess will be here if it's in stock, or if inventory is not 0, it will show, or maybe we decided to remove that feature, I can't remember. But that's what this is trying to do. And then once you click this button, you actually go to that URL. So TCG player, you can see it goes to TCG Play Store with Enlightened Strike, and then Fab Armory will take you to Fab Armory. So super cool. Okay, so we'll go deal with the last function we have in here, which is just get versions. So get versions is just a something we want to get a list of all the alternate printing versions for a particular card. So we already know the card because we already have the printings. I know Sarabs is probably saying, hey, L2T, learn to type, noob. So if printing language is equal to English, so we're just going to go something super straightforward. We just want to show SKU. Oh man, I really need to learn to type. And then foiling. So this is all we want to show. We want to know for a particular version, we want to know the SKU. So what was it? And that way we can hit that card. We want to know the edition, and we want to know the foiling. We already know the card name and all of those details, so that stuff's already properties that we have. Append version, and then we're just going to return this. And that's it. So now we have a URL where we can get all the cards. We have a URL where we can get a specific card and all of the details for that specific card. And let me just check if there's anything else. Yeah, I think we might just want to grab one more, which is let's get the market price. So we'll go back up here. We'll create one more route. By SKU. And then in here, we're just going to create another function, another route that will allow us to return the TCG market price by SKU. And what that does is it gives us this thing. So it shows us, hey, look, Enlightened Strike for the last week has been hovering around $80, $85, $86, $87. But then in the last 2 days, the market price has jumped to 95 and then to 114. That's pretty interesting. I don't know why Enlightened Strike Rainbow Foil has gone on this kind of sudden jump. This is close to a 50% increase in price, which is pretty crazy. Oh man, Sarabs, thanks for the 4-month subversary. I appreciate it, man. So I think this is pretty cool. And this is the kind of information that you kind of want to track and understand how the market is moving, why it's moving, and how can you kind of get on top of it and take advantage of it, if that's what you want to do. If not, it might just be something like, hey, you have this card and you want to know, hey, maybe it's a good time to sell, or maybe you just kind of want to know how much your total collection's worth at a particular point in time and just feel good about it. And maybe, like, you know, borrow against the value of your collection to invest in potato stock. I don't know. That's or if you're anything like Kian, you'll invest in gold.
Gold is good.
Gold is good, says Kian. That's her financial advice. Definitely not my financial advice. All right, so we're just gonna go get these details again. We're just gonna get that request arg. And I do want to say that there are a bunch of ways you can do this. You can set this as a param and then grab it from params. But yeah, it's up to you. So we're just going to grab something that we've already grabbed before. So this is something we've stored. You can definitely, from our previous sections, you can actually store this yourself as well. Justify data, and we'll set a route to this. So we'll go get historic prices by SKU, and this is a get method. Cool. So this is your Flask app. I'll just double check to make sure I haven't missed anything. Karen, let me know if you think I've missed anything. You don't always have to specify all of these parameters. Debug equals true is kind of good when you're testing and you're doing stuff on your own local PC. Obviously, don't have this on when you're hosting it online and productionizing. The port just specifies the port. There are a whole bunch of other parameters you can set in here as well. But let me just check, make sure we got everything. I think that does look pretty good. So, I mean, that was a little bit longer than all the other sessions, but I think that's pretty cool. We now have a working Flask app that you can definitely host online, and whenever you call the URL and then followed by the URI, so these 3 routes that we have, get all cards and prints, get card details by SKU, and get historic prices by SKU, you actually get some data back. Logging, 100% you need logging. There are tons of things that I think you also need. So we also didn't touch on things like securing your API, requiring some kind of auth, so OAuth or client ID secret, bearer, auths. We haven't touched on any of that kind of stuff. And we haven't touched on how you should host this. So you can definitely host it as a Flask app like this and run it in App Engine, but I probably wouldn't recommend that anymore. I would actually recommend you run each one of these functions as a separate endpoint so that you don't have all the overhead of having to hit the same server, but for different actions. You probably just want one server for each action. So there are tons of stuff there that we're not going to go into around deployment and that kind of architecture side, but this is more like a it's good enough to get you started and pretty cool to run a whole bunch of stuff. So we're just going to run this. All this is going to do is it's going to start this thing that runs on 127.0.0.1 and then your port that you specified. And I'm just going to write up a test script just so you guys can test a server, just so you can see how it works and kind of what we can potentially get from here. So let's say the first one we want to do is we want to go, actually we want to get the headers first. Let me just check the comments. ETH, BTC and ETH for the win. Gold greater than ETH. Can't stake gold. Or true. I don't know about Kian. My view is obviously I like BTC. I like ETH. I like what this whole environment's going to open up in the future. I don't know where it's going to get to because I am concerned about the whole energy consumption. But I think from a data and tech and quality of life, overall quality of life improvement, I think that this technology will give us huge advantages in the future. I actually am just going to turn off debug equals true because every time I realize that every time I type something, this is going to reload. So I'm just going to stop this. We'll just set it to that. Cool. So we're just going to build some test scripts. So the first thing we'll hit is, actually, I'll split screen in a sec. So I'll grab this. And then I will move the backend API here. So you can see, and I'll just cut this. This won't do anything, just aesthetically easier so that we can see all of the different functions we've got. So the first one we're going to hit is this one, all cards and prints. This is obviously going to be a huge piece in here. But we'll print it anyway. So we're going to go print all cards and prints. There are a couple of ways you can print. You can go, and I'll show you a couple because I like one particular type. I think Kian likes a different type. So what I do is I just go print this. Oh, forgot about this. If name equals main, print main. Oops, don't need print it. So we're going to just run this. So as you can see, we have heaps and heaps of data. This is every single print and everything we could possibly want. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get all of this information. I can, cool. So normally what I do is I copy this. Generally I wouldn't have anywhere near this much data, and I'll go to this website, jsonviewer.stack.hu, and I just hit format. And I like seeing it on this because I like it in browser. And that way you can see, hey, here's a list of blue, alpha, rainbow, absorb in ether, blue, alpha, regular, absorb in ether, blue, unlimited, rainbow, absorb in ether, and so on. Here's a list of all the things, and here's a list of all your SKUs. The alternate way is you can pretty print. You do have to import pretty print.
You can just use JSON. That's fine. If you just do JSON.dump and then do an indent equal 4, and that should give you a nice format.
Okay. Import preprint. So yeah, okay, then there's that one. This one's nice too, but it's quite slow. But it does look really nice. It does the formatting for you. And your one, Kian?
Yeah, just do import JSON.
And so you just go r.json .dump.
Yep.
Indent equals 4.
Oh no, you put it at the front. So just JSON.dump and then put in your data. First parameter is your data.
As you can see, this is not my preferred way of doing it. So Kian's gonna share some pearls of wisdom.
I think this is a dump.
Okay, so JSON.dump r.json is the data that we want to dump, and indent equals 4. We got printed though. So yeah, that was a lot faster, and it's actually quite nice. I do like this one. So that's cool. So a whole bunch of different ways you can do that. So we'll leave this here. I won't print this. The next one that we want to call is, let's call it the historic prices one, because that's probably a little bit shorter. So we need a SKU. So let's get, we've been working with WTR1, is it 159? I can't remember. We'll check in a bit. So we're going to use this one. We're going to go request.get, and then we'll grab the details. And so this is going to be the historic prices by SKU. And then we're going to do the same thing. So we'll do this one just so we can stay on screen. So this is going to take this particular SKU, and we're going to call this one get card details by SKU. And we're just going to get, oh no, sorry, this one, the TCG market prices by SKU. So we're just going to get historic market prices for as long as we've collected it, which is not very long. So we'll run this. And you can see that here. You can see it's been $86 for a long time, then 87, then just shy of 88, then 95, then 114, just in the last couple of days, which is pretty crazy. I think that's quite a stark movement in the last 2 days. But yeah, that's that one. So now you can see that that's working. And actually, I will show you the backend API. You can see someone's called get all prints 4 times, and someone's now just called UWTR159RF get historic prices by SKU once. So pretty cool. The last one we'll do is we'll do this one. So we'll just copy paste all of this stuff, and all we have to do is change this. So instead of going get historic prices by SKU, we're going to get card details by SKU. We're going to use the same SKU, and we're just going to change this to get card details. by SKU. So we're just going to get rid of this, and we'll rerun this. We have an error. Let's check where our error is. So this tells me that we are missing something, which means something in here is erroring.
Yeah, if you go back to the Backend API terminal,
Yeah,
did you turn on debug's true?
I did not.
Oh yeah, I think you did. So
Okay, so what?
response. So I think if you go to that line 33,
Where are we here? So this is not returning what they want.
I think if you
Oh,
just
okay.
return response, should be okay.
Yeah, but we need it for this one. So I'll just take the first component of this tuple. So which one was it? Is that right? Get details. It's saying that this line, but we're calling this.
Do you want to print out response and see?
Yeah.
JSON message string bytes.
Yeah. That one will print our content. And then we will have to turn the, actually we can run this. Oh, okay, we got an internal server error. Oh yeah, well, we already know that. So it's saying it's in here, which doesn't make sense because we're not hitting
Yeah,
that endpoint.
wait, because what is response a dictionary or something, or is it just none?
It's probably none, is my guess.
Yeah, so that
I'll turn
could be the
debug
problem.
back to true. So I can save it and we can run it. Stop and rerun. So now we're printing it. Oh, now it's working.
Is it working now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's working. Okay.
How weird.
I think something to do with the cloud backend. So
Yeah, I think so too.
yeah.
Okay, so we can ignore that stuff. So this is kind of the information that we're getting for that particular card. So that was get card details by SKU. So you can see attack 5, cost 0, defense 3, pitch 1, edition unlimited, rainbow foiling. This is the image path, language, the print ID that we've got, and then a whole bunch of the sellers and the prices. So you can see we have a list of the sellers. So Fab Armory, TCG low, TCG mid, high, market, and then like a bunch more information. So in however long this was, 2 hours, just under 2 hours, you would have built a full working backend API that scrapes 2 websites for Flesh and Blood prices. Super cool. With that, I think I'm gonna just take a quick break. I'm just gonna stop the recording.